Hello, I'm Ronnie Eldridge. Welcome to Eldridge and Company. My guest has spent his adult life working in the public's interest. So smart and unwavering, he's been a great advocate for you and me as a public servant, elected official, author, and commentator. He's Mark Green, and he's my guest today. Welcome.
Thank you. I don't deserve that, but I have to accept it. I'm on screen.
Okay. So, I mean, you've been active in everything, but now we've got this president. Have you ever seen anything like this?
Well, forget me. No one has in America.
No, you're right.
There's never been a nominee never been a president like Trump. I mean, Nixon was smart, had a bad character. Obama was smart, had a good character. Trump is smart but ignorant. So he's obviously has a cunning when it comes to EQ, sizing up people, looking for your Achilles heel and then shooting an arrow at it. But he's ignorant when it comes to running a government, which is not running a family business where you can appoint Jared and Ivanka to run everything. Oh, wait a second. That's what he did. Yeah. And so when it happened, I was startled, shocked, dismayed, angry. Well, my country.
Yeah, we're going to come and talk about that because you wrote this great book, which was published just before the election, but you had some really interesting foresight about it. But now, the people he's appointed are so, I mean, he thinks he can just make a deal, right? Doesn't he think that's what it's all about?
You know, a really smart person should be aware of his or her flaws and skills. He is so self-aware that he thinks because he makes a deal with people who are scared he may sue them, that he can run the United States of America. And we've seen he can't. And his poll numbers are unprecedentedly low. He talked about repeal and replace 500 times, didn't.
And said he didn't say it.
He said, oh, I never said I would do it in 64 days at noon. No, he lies like you and I breathe. I mean, this is not a novel thing. And so it's essential to expose him, but also keep proposing the progressive ideas we've dedicated our life to, not like we're the Japanese generals in a cave unwilling to admit defeat. It's a progressive majority in this country. I mean, Hillary Clinton, of course, won by 3 million votes. And on issue after issue, choice, climate, economic inequality, wars abroad, the country is fundamentally liberal, but with money in politics and gerrymandering, the playing field is tilted to the right.
And he's appointed people around him. So that's what I want to get to. He's appointed a cabinet of people that he thinks can continue and help him make deals. No?
Well,
and protect their interests.
You know, when Eisenhower was president, a good Republican president, he had what was called 12 businessmen and a plumber. So I was the best at war, but he admired businessmen. Look, they made money, I didn't. And he had one labor leader, so it was an all-male, all-white thing. Trump, it's all billionaires, ideologues, far right, market over everything, and a couple of generals.
And a few members of Congress.
Those are the ideologues.
Right.
Tom Price.
Sorry, right.
Obamacare is terrible because it provides too many people health insurance. We've got to reduce it. Oh, no kidding. I guess you have health insurance. And so these are people who are in the wrong fit. I mean, Ben Carson may have lived in housing, but he doesn't know a first thing about it. And Rick Perry thought we should abolish the Energy Department, and all he was doing is promoting fossil fuels. When they said to the man who controls our nuclear arsenal is within energy, he went, really? You know, if I saw a surgeon who was operating on me, he said, a scalpel? Wow. You get anxious. So, as you know, after the loss, we all had to react personally and professionally, as we will. And so personally, I was very upset. And I had to endure, and a lot of us did. I have a 6-year-old granddaughter who was smart as a whip, who had met Hillary Clinton. I had told her, here's Hillary, she's going to be the first president. She got all excited. And then she said, Pops, what happened? I did not have a good explanation. Second, professionally, we've invested our lives in making the laws fair, the economy opportunity and fair, fighting stupid wars. And I saw this guy not as merely a Nixon and a Reagan, bad enough, that he didn't want to just put a pause. He wanted to go back to the 50s, the 1850s, no market regulation. So I did what I could. I had a national radio show. I started with Ariane Huffington, and I stopped it after 6 years. I didn't want to cover Trump. Oh. Should he or should he not, et cetera. I wanted to expose and see what comes next. So I created a thing called @shadowing Trump. Of course, it's not original. It's that British have a shadow government. The out party keeps the in party accountable. Me alone, but I was able to corral 15 people of the stature of a constitutional law professor, Larry Tribe, former Labor Secretary Bob Reich, Rosa Brooks, who was a ranking Defense Department lawyer under Obama, DeRay McKesson, 32-year-old black guy who helped start the Black Lives Matter. And our whole is greater than the sum of our parts. And so every day at Shadowing Trump, we tweet out what he's doing that's crazy and exposing him. People say, oh, can that make a difference? Why do you vote? You don't know what will make a difference, but it's cumulative. And I thought we'd get 5,000 people following us. That's the term of art in Twitter world. We're at 50,000 a month later. So it's our design, it's our theory, and it's Trump. People also are shocked and furious, hence the unexpectedly high turnouts on the street, on the Women's March, at town hall meetings, money to the ACLU.
The airports, everything, right?
Refugee ban.
Yeah. So your what is it, a Twitter or is it it's a website?
Well, we have a website, shadowingtrump.org.
Yeah.
But I get every morning suggested tweets. Andrew Basevich is a brilliant scholar on defense matters. He's at BU. This morning he sent something like, oh, the departing defense secretary said the lessons he learned at defense were about technology and the military. How about no more stupid wars? How about not an unending war in Afghanistan? Now, Andrew had an op-ed piece about that the prior week, about Afghanistan is, twice as long as the Vietnam War. And so I look at it, I go, this is great. I'm the curator, editor. Fix it up, and then we publish it. We put it out on Twitter. Ronnie, I used to write an article, let's say, for The Nation magazine. I love The Nation and New Republic. I would write it, I'd hear nothing. One letter to the editor. Now, within an hour, 1,000 people have read it and responded. You're great, you're stupid, whatever it is. And it has
they send it on.
And they send it out to other people. And it's part of look, Trump got elected in part because of Twitter. He created his own network. 20 million now. We're creating our own network.
So can you also see it online?
No.
No.
I mean, it's not. I mean, you can go to your computer. I mean, most
on your
people.
Website.
If
I go to your website, do I
Yes.
get the Twitter feed?
Yes.
Okay, that's what I meant.
But most people just go straight to
the Twitter.
@shadowing Trump.
Okay, but what I wanted to say is, we see in the newspaper, and our local paper is doing such a great job, the Times, and the Post, and all those things, the Washington Post. But they're concentrating. What?
I knew which post you meant.
Thank you. I didn't know everybody, but they concentrate on the White House and on the personnel, the bigger things. But your Twitter, from the different people assigned to the different cabinet positions, they're really able in short things to emphasize what's happening within that agency.
Right.
So you'll hear what's being deregulated. You'll hear all those different things, which is
what
so valuable.
Trump tries to do is comment on the headlines and in the bureaucracy. Trump is so, let's face it, interesting to the point of being mesmerizing that you can't see much of anything else. So Joan Claybrook is a friend with Nader for years. She's our Citizen Secretary of Transportation. So she comments on Elaine Chao, who's the wife of Senate Leader Mitch McConnell, what they're doing at the DOT. So she's commenting on self-driving cars, what they should do, what they want. And DOT is about to pick a number 2 to Chao, who's one of the more moderate Republicans, who's a hard right-wing, pro-industry guy. And Joan blows the whistle on our thing. and then the word gets out.
That's what's so important, I think, those next people and those appointments.
Our whole is greater than the sum of our parts.
That's great.
And people may not be listening. I mean, 50,000 people is not 50 million people. But we're growing because we've never seen, this is a national emergency. I'm sorry. Other than Fort Sumter and the Great Depression, I cannot think of a more dire time domestically, world wars, than now, because he is trying to he's trying to turn our democracy into an accounts receivable for his family and ruin it.
There's never been a president of an opposition party that's a person that's been elected that has so destroyed or trying to destroy what happened in the past, is there?
No, and again...
And an intention to really challenge you. I mean, it's like a deliberate... Right.
Well, when he... You know, the Borgias of Italy, a family-run operation, and they ran the country and doing favors to family and friends. This week, we found out that Ivanka Trump, I'm sure she's a lovely woman, got a security clearance. Jared Kushner...
And her own office in the White House.
Jared, well, she deserves it. I don't know if it was her perfume line or her ISIS plan. Okay. But for Jared Kushner, who I do know, is a lovely guy. He's 35, never been in government. He has 10 portfolios. And he met with the head of Putin's bank, unbeknownst to people, 2 months ago. Really? And Donald Trump, a third of his days have been at Mar-a-Lago or one of his resorts. So when he goes to a resort, it advertises the brand, the business. People come, and he makes money from it.
He does it every weekend, even when he's in Washington. He went to the hotel, right?
Well, you know, I've met politicians who are shameless. They can do. Yeah. He's completely shameless, without empathy. But he's basically every day adding up the articles of impeachment. Not now. Republicans, he's their thoroughbred in office. But should the Congress change, should the House get Democrats net 26 or so seats, and Nancy Pelosi is the leader, he will be impeached. He's done 20 things, the equivalent of Bill Clinton.
We all know these very smart lawyers, including you. I can't believe that somebody isn't able to find a way to get him to at least resign. It's a heavy thing, I know.
Well, he's not a big quitter.
Yeah. Let's
but the only way is, look, the Irish betting odds have him at even money that he'd complete his term.
Yeah.
Meaning death, disability, resignation, impeachment, whatever. And so you can't get a president. Now, the Constitution was flawed. I mean, forget 3/5 of a man and the Electoral College. It had no provision for once every 2 centuries a do-over. If they had known at the time, the British would put a monarch-like person in charge of America by nefarious means, they may say, not acceptable, we need a do-over.
Constitutional Convention.
Russia picked Trump.
Yep.
And if people are comfortable with Vladimir Putin forcing Donald Trump on us, he doesn't have a majority. He's a small m minority president who had a 17% health care bill in favorability with a 37% favorability for the president, try to muscle it through Congress. And the separation of powers in that instance, thank God, worked.
And also people power. I mean, the showing up at members of Congress.
Absolutely.
That fear of their own reelection.
Did you have that when you were, look, you had a secure seat when you were in the council.
Yeah.
But did it ever happen that people would, come in and...
About the horse and buggies. That was the big issue. They didn't like it that I said I would rather hear about the children in foster care than the horse and buggy. Anyway, let's go on to this. I want to talk about this book and your life, because it's fascinating. I remember first...
I have no objection.
Okay, I know you don't. Your reputation precedes you, but it's all right. I first met you when you were working for Nader, and I remember visiting you in Washington. I don't know if you do, and your first child had just been born. Anyway, you worked for Nader.
37 years ago.
You insulted Bella Abzug. These are the things in my life that I remember.
She thought I did.
Yeah, she really did, yes. But you went on, and and you've written a book, which even shocked me when you revealed some things about politicians, because I'm a very naive politician. I am. The deals that were suggested to you, the things that happen, I find incredible in our little local New York City politics. Anyway, the Nader thing was, how did you grow up? You grew up in Long Island. You went to Cornell.
Upper middle class Great Neck. Went to Cornell and Harvard Law School.
And the family was very interested in politics or not?
No, but my parents were both, I don't know if anyone knows what this means, Rockefeller Republicans, meaning moderates,
liberal, yeah.
not Tea Party,
Right.
far right. My father ran in 1940 for the state senate on the east side of Manhattan as a Republican. He lost. I said, Dad, later in life, why'd you do that? He said, to enhance my law business. This was never my motive, to say the least. And so I didn't grow up in a political family, but I grew up in a political era. And every generation has generational hubris. 60s were different. Kennedys, Robert Kennedy, for you especially, me, fighting the war. I protested it when I was a congressional intern. I got people to sign a letter to LBJ. As a result, he canceled his annual meeting with interns, which is in the book.
Yeah.
And I thought, wow, this
That's
is
the
fun.
power.
I haven't changed.
Yeah.
Because through being consumer commissioner and public advocate, my ideal was to merge the Nader-like sensibility with political authority. And so I hit my personal stride when I was public advocate because I could sue, propose laws. I got rid of cigarette vending machines, got rid of dual prices for women when they get haircuts.
Everything.
Small and large things. Went after police misconduct under Giuliani and won then. But Ronnie, while I'm not interesting enough to have written a memoir, I bumped into so many forces of nature, or farces of nature, if you count Trump and Giuliani, that my interactions with them, with Nader, with the Clintons, and against Rudy and D'Amato, for example, tracked the progressive rise. It didn't cause it, obviously, but it intersected with the progressive rise from the 60s to 16. So I chronicled the movements, the women's movement, the gay movement, the drug reform movement, anti-war, obviously, for example, and the consumer movement, and my interactions with it. But it ends 6 months before the election where I go, well, I think the country is a progressive majority, still do, and it will lead to a very accomplished, together, brilliant, experienced woman, Hillary Clinton, becoming president by 4 to 7 points.
This is in your book we're talking about.
It's all in the book.
Right.
I didn't want to predict exactly because you never know. Well, I learned a lot about serendipity and external events when I had a mayoral primary scheduled for years on September 11th, 2001. And so external things can change the chemistry. I didn't anticipate Putin, Comey, WikiLeaks. I mean, it was this is a cliche, but you use it when you need to, a perfect storm. And it led to this unpopular minority president eking it out by at one point in 4 states, in part because of the voter suppression of those Republican governors. People don't even talk about that. And in part because Comey, who's otherwise seems an outstanding guy, made a calamitous mistake. And I'm guessing and hoping he's trying to make up for it now on the evidence. We'll see.
But you had trends, and you still believe those trends exist?
Well, some of them are irresistible. Older white people are dying. In 10 years, half the babies in maternity wards will be black or brown or Asian in America. And so every 4 years, the presidential vote is increasingly minority. And so all things, if Reagan had gotten the same percentage of his constituencies in 2016 as he did in 1980, he would have lost easily, because the white vote in America, I have nothing against white people, my children, blah, 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 went from 90% of the vote to 70%. Women, professional women, are gaining in stature, income, voting, and influence. Professional women, not all, but most, are Democratic. So Barack Obama gets elected, and then his opposite gets elected president.
Incredible.
And it's a fugitive from the law of averages, someone would say. I mean, this is a it's a fiasco, but a fluke, I think. Now, the angry white working class men mostly in the Rust Belt are angry for a reason. Partly it's economic because of world trends that no one affects. Partly it's racial. And all the books looking
Sexist.
at Texas, all the books looking at this objectively, a lot of white workers aren't racist. I mean, but they think, and here's the metaphor, they're angry that they seem to be cutting in line, getting welfare, not work. So from Reagan's welfare queen to Trump's birtherism, it's politicians winking at the white vote, but that constituency is declining demographically, and a more progressive constituency is emerging. So in one or two elections, Texas may go Democratic because of the Latino population, and I think America, I actually can't believe that America would re-elect Donald Trump. Electing was odd enough, but after seeing what an embarrassment he is nationally and internationally, not again.
And the public is being ignited. You know, they've been awakened, I think, right? I think all the energy that we see now is so hopeful and inspiring. But between the 60s and later, we didn't, along the way, I mean, we had the women and we had gays and we had this and that. But generally, we didn't have a sense, I don't think, of the civic responsibility of people. Do you agree with me or not?
I do
Did
partly.
you have civics in high school?
I do not remember. I don't remember. Was I in high school?
Yeah, I think you were. You couldn't
Look,
skip that much. But
Ralph Nader's, if you look him up in a dictionary, it would be citizen,
right,
activist.
Right.
The office of citizen is the most important, said Justice Frankfurter. There are all these books called, like one is Bowling Alone. The church community were big in the 50s, and that declined as people looked to government more. And now, until now, when people go online, they don't have to talk to people, they don't have to go to meetings, they have virtual meetings. The silver lining, if you can call it that, is instead of relying on Barack and Hillary, progressives, women, working people in this country now know it's up to us. And when they protested in town halls, do your job, you're lying.
that was the greatest thing you could say.
It moved votes.
It did. It really
That's
did.
right.
It instilled fear in the face of in the minds of these public. I have never been great with the term progressives. I mean, I am still an old FDR liberal, I guess, in a way. I'm liberal. I've always felt progressive sort of put that middle group, some of the rural or the Midwest, on edge a little bit, progressive.
Well, you said a contradiction. I am a JFK liberal.
Yeah,
I always
me
use
too.
the word liberal.
Yeah.
Because the business Koch brothers ideological right wing has spent billions of dollars making believe that liberals are only for minorities and going to take
right.
away your religion.
Right.
They've contaminated it. You know,
Yeah, but progressive has taken, it's, what do you call it when you skip over somebody? Progressive now has a different connotation to
good
people.
or bad.
I don't think it's always great with non-progressives.
Well, you know,
I think progressives like to say they're progressive, but I think people who don't consider themselves progressive, it's almost like, are you a feminist? You know,
well, that also,
I'm not a feminist. I'm a woman. Yes, of course I want my job and I want all that.
also feminazis by Rush
Yeah.
Limbaugh. Look, the word progressive means progress.
I understand
And what is
that.
America but always lurchingly making progress on women's rights and voting rights? No one's going to overturn Social Security, for example, or Brown v. Board, for example. And so, no, I use it not as a euphemism or to evade blame. I grew up thinking the two greatest public interest lawyers and advocates in American history were Justice Louis Brandeis and Ralph Nader. Forget about his 2000 election.
Yeah, all right.
I mean, I'm sorry I didn't vote for him. And so that's a tradition that I come out of and out of the 60s. So bright infinite future, people say to me, oh, look at your book. Do we have a bright infinite future? And the answer is yes. And Trump interrupted us. I mean, he has interrupted this slow, steady progress
Right.
because of this perfect storm.
And now we have to stop.
Keep our eye
him.
on the prize.
Right.
which is the next generation of leaders and issues, and I'm trying to pull my oar.
Well, I think you're doing a great contribution. I mean, I think this network, and I hope that people do continue to expand that network.
At Shadowing Trump on Twitter.
It's the Shadow Cabinet.
Right.
And it's going to provide more information to you on a daily basis.
So, Lincoln, you can do nothing without public opinion, anything with it. And so if you shift, we're not looking to 100%. If you shift Trump's 46% of the vote to 43, and the Democratic nominees from 48 to 51, a different America. Small margins, big result.
So we've come to the end of this program very quickly.
No.
We'll have to come back. We haven't even talked about what we see in the future and other things, right?
I will do it.
We'll come back, all right?
When invited.
Thank you so much.
Thank you,
Mark
Ronnie.
Green. Thank you. We at CUNY TV always like to hear from our viewers. So if you have any subjects you'd like to explore or people you'd like to hear, please let us know. Write to us at CUNY TV, 365 Fifth Avenue, New York, 10016, or go to our website, cuny.tv, and click on Contact Us. We look forward to hearing from you.